And welcome to a truly clear-cut black and white edition of Ben's Junk. And not only that, a double header. Yeah, that opening was a little dirtier than usual, wasn't it? Anyway, today let's take a look at a pair of black and white CRT, cathode ray tube monitors. A work in progress and a cute little viewer donation. The donation, not the viewer. So let's start with the donation, a little appetizer for the main event. This is a Panasonic WV-BM990, manufactured in December of 2003. It has a 9-inch screen, a potential 800-line horizontal resolution. It's got vertical hold, brightness, and contrast controls, and that's about it. There is no audio support for this, never was, and there's only a single BNC video in and output on the back. In other words, these were mostly used for surveillance or as an auxiliary monitor in a broadcast setup. And indeed, according to the donor, this was the VTR3 monitor at both KPVT and KHMP-TV, both low-powered stations, both based out of Pahrump, Nevada. Pahrump. Anyway, it's some 60 miles west of Las Vegas and kind of right on the Nevada-California border. But anyway, according to him, this spent its professional life hooked to a DV/mini DV VCR and mostly playing and dubbing old TV shows like Happy Days and other usually vintage Viacom-owned material and dubbing news programs and stuff. But otherwise, that's really about all there is to say about this one. So let me take a cut here. I'll tinker a bit with the settings just to show them off, and then we'll get on to today's main event. All right, I turned off the lights for this just so everything becomes a little more apparent. And if this looks a little blue to you, that's just how my camera is interpreting this picture. This is a true black and white. Looks great in person. It's just kind of reacting to the natural ambient overhead main one light that I'm using right now. And yes, Benny Boy's public domain theater choice of the night, Carnival of Souls. So anyway, as I mentioned, there is no audio to this, but this is coming from my little portable DVD player, which I region hacked at one point so I can play international stuff in it. But if I want audio, I guess I'll just have to use that. Get some of that classic Carnival of Souls soundtrack going. Which I swear is just the same 4 notes or so for most of the movie. But anyway, let's just take a quick run through this. So everything except the contrast, so just vertical hold and the brightness, do have a detente position, so a neutral position, unity, if you will. And we'll just start tinkering with this a little. So let's start tinkering with the vertical hold. And it doesn't do a whole lot. You have that really sharp jump, stabilize, or just kind of a steady rolling sort of thing going on there. And I guess I could kind of, intentionally make a bouncing C6 sort of thing here, but let's put it back to its proper position. Brightness, this is the natural position. That's all the way down, and that's all the way up. And I don't know if it's just age or not, but I can crank everything up, and it never does get blown out, really. And then lastly is contrast, which doesn't have a stop position of sorts, but if I turn it all the way down, everything goes away. And I found that even though it's probably not correct, it tends to look better when I have the contrast all the way up and the brightness up just a touch beyond unity, whether that's correct or not. So anyway, that really is all there is to show off with this monitor. So let me take another cut here and we'll start taking a look at, an intro to today's main event at least. I did a live stream last month in which I briefly showed off a massive coup within the realm of Oddity Archive, and also a colossal fixer-upper, which will probably be in progress for quite some time to come. And yeah, it is pretty well known that despite the numerous problems they're known to have, I've been after a Sony CV series skip field VTR videotape recorder for several years now. And a few months ago, within not even a month of each other, I got my hands on a CV-2100, which I haven't had a chance to so much as clean yet, and more excitingly, to me at least, a TCV-2010. And I also have the camera that you could purchase and use with any CV series unit. Now, I've seen conflicting info on this, but some sources claim that the TCV 2010 is the first, operative phrase, domestic use videotape unit to be released in North America. I've seen others claim that the CV-2000, which is just the tape part of this, beat the TCV units to the market by 1 month. And I've also seen claims that the CV-2000, TCV-2010, and TCV-2020, which is just this with wood paneling and a timer, all hit the market right at the same time. But regardless, we're looking at a August or September of 1965 release, although this could be a unit from as late as 1968. Now, the big draw of the TCV units was that you didn't need to hook it up to an existing TV set, which could be a bit of a trip back then. But yeah, it's because there's one built in, so to speak. And you might have noticed that there's a little something missing from this picture. So let's take a cut and we'll look at just the TV from this unit. I'm trying to work on, or have someone else work on if needed, and I think that's going to happen, work on this project in stages. The TV, the VTR, and the camera rig. Now, as far as the VTR goes, the CV-2000, I know I still need to properly clean out the fish tank, if you will, and it also needs at least a new drive belt. The old one is loose and somewhat hardened. And by the same token, as far as I can tell thus far, the CV-2000 is at least semi-functional and is seemingly stable in terms of power. And it took me a while to get my hands on so much as a power cord to test that thing with. But anyway, this, moving on to the TV, is the CVM-51UW. This unit dates to presumably somewhere in the 1965 to 68 range. I think those were the only years they made the TCV units. And as best as I can gather, this is just a Sony model TV9 51UW with a hardwired EIAJ8 cable. Now, as for this specific model of TV, I think this was only available tied to a CV unit, or some of the very first AV EIAJ Type 1 units in 69 or 70. But yeah, I can't find any evidence that you could purchase just this TV. And it's probably going to be easier for me to go into guerrilla mode with this one, so give me a moment and we'll do just that. And here we are in shaky cam PucaVision mode. But it's kind of the only way to go about this one, I think. So once again, we're dealing with a 9-inch screen, black and white, once again. But dare I say this is a good bit more sophisticated than that Panasonic deal. So for one, we've got a headphone jack this time around, which admittedly I have not tried. And then we've got a few dials down here. So it's the same 3 as the Panasonic, but in this case we get a horizontal hold knob as well. Then we have an all-in-one volume/power knob, and I cannot get that kind of rust looking stuff inside the center of it out, unfortunately. So then we've got the, at least the dial for the VHF tuner. And I think there was another piece of plastic hooked to this at some point, but who knows? And I say that because you can tell somebody used one of those Dymo label maker deals, Dyno, and just made new number channel markings on it, and 5 and 12 have since fallen off. But if I can make the light hit it just right, you can see where 5 was, and if I turn it around 12. But yeah, I don't know if there was another piece or it just wore off or it was always really dim like that. But I think I'm going to have to find a super, super fine paintbrush and some white paint and craft paint or something and try and fill that back in as best as I can. And I am not an artist. Now, I don't know if this is design or what. I figured this would have been fine tuning, this outer ring here, but it doesn't seem to do much of anything. But once again, this TV is a bit enigmatic to me. So let me turn around here and twist around my towel while I'm at it. So I had to, in advance, open this up because they designed it as a hinge, but they have it so you can't really go in or out a whole lot. But yeah, there's the switch for TV and VTR. Obviously, we are in TV mode because how else was I going to test it? And then down here is at least the dial for the UHF tuner. If I can make the camera focus on that. And there's a part that arrived shattered, and I think it had been shattered for a long time. I glued it back together as best as I could, but you know, it's never perfect. But you can see the glue wore off. But as is, you can go from, say, channel 50 to 70 in a heartbeat. So when I hook this up as best as I can only fit it about halfway. But it seems to slow it down. So it's kind of a fine-tuning sort of deal, if I can get my finger on it just right and keep it in the shot. So you can see I'm turning it, and it's a much smoother transition between channels. But yeah, one more strange thing about this. So anyway, since I'm twisting the towel, let's just go all the way and totally destroy it. On the back here, we've got another spot for another antenna, an 1/8 inch jack. So I guess you'd have to use an 1/8 inch to F type and a right angle to do that. But it does have its own telescoping antenna, and it's a big one. I mean, we're about, not quite 3 feet off the ground here, but if I extend this all the way, I believe it's a 10-foot ceiling in here, certainly at least 9. I can just about get up there. I'm not going to do it right now because, well, for one, my arm doesn't go that far. Otherwise, we've got a spot for some sort of battery pack, but I cannot find any real info on it. Not that I've done any real deep digging on it yet, but it would be kind of interesting to see what those look like. I'm sure those battery packs are all totally screwed at this point. And of course, we're just dealing with a basic non-polarized 2-prong cord here. So if I turn this back around and move my tools and such, once again, we've got the EIAJ8 cable here. And if anybody knows where I can score another one of these, please let me know. For what it's worth, I did hook this into one of my other EIAJ equipped deals, and it worked just fine. But let's talk about the dangers of the TCV series here for a moment. Yeah, we took a bit of a blow at some point, and it's happened, unfortunately, twice on my watch. So in the TCV unit, this whole thing, and we've got most of the rigging for it here, it latches onto an arm, which normally pokes through here, and it's on a spring. It's kind of a half moon shaped thing. And it's very, very easy to make this pop right off and just violently snap back into the machine. So it'll be upright, you're watching, you're doing something, or maybe you move the machine a little and then just boom. And like I said, it's happened twice on my watch, and I think it happened a bunch of times before that. And I definitely need to replace the padding. There is a soft landing, so to speak, but the foam has worn off. So it's just a couple of exposed metal spring-like deals that kind of work like my knuckles there. Now, my first inclination was to go ahead and re-glue this, but I think I'm going to hold off on that until probably someone else can look at it, because I just don't know CRTs too well. And yeah, I have tried to take the back off of this and just have not succeeded, but I would like someone to take a look at this, check to see that the capacitors aren't all dried out and all that. But anyway, with that in mind, we will move on to the next segment here. And I have tested this. It worked once. I don't know if it'll work a second time, but we'll find out, won't we? Testing this may or may not happen. Now, if it doesn't, I do have a fail-safe. I did manage to nab about 1.5 minutes of footage on my phone when I did the initial testing, and I tweaked the controls through all that. So if nothing else, I can run that. But otherwise, as far as the condition of this TV goes, there's some definite dirt and oxidization going on. The audio is intermittent, and the picture never does read quite right. I've removed the knobs, and I've sprayed a little contact cleaner in there and worked the knobs and all, but it hasn't really made much of a difference. And as I said, the picture is never quite stable. It always wobbles just a little. And also, the lower third of the screen tends to be cloudy, and I don't know if that's a purity issue or what. For what it's worth, I do own a degaussing ring, but I'm hesitant to use it on this. Once again, I just don't have that deep of a background with CRTs. But anyway, if I want to demo this thing, I am going to have my little pirate TV station going, because once again, the only input is that EIAJ cable. So if we want to actually run TV, I can't hook up a converter box or anything. It has to be analog. So I want to keep the usage time of this to a bare minimum. But if all goes well, I'll get you 2 little tests here. One on VHF and one on UHF. Okay, I had to turn the lights off for this because they interfere horribly. I'll just show that real quick. Problem is, it takes a second to come back, and it doesn't always happen. But anyway, we are on channel 3 right now, and I brought out my little handheld TV just to show it in operation. So this is about as stable as I've ever been able to get the picture. Here's the vertical hold, horizontal, which really gets badly out of whack. Brightness. And this does blow out if I have it too high. And then contrast, which I found I have to keep all the way up. Otherwise I get kind of that. And you can kind of see the issue I'm having on the bottom third of the screen there. But yeah, this is about as good as it's gotten. Okay, here we are in UHF mode, which tends to work a lot better. It's a Smiley Burnett movie, by the way, from the public domain VHS stash. And here it is on my little TV, and it's pretty clear on that. Not so much here, but it was the best I could do. And at times it seems like the purity issue, I'm just calling it that, the lower third issue, cloud issue, is a little more pronounced here. Although at the moment it's not really showing itself too bad because, you know, the instant I turn on the camera. But yeah, at least as it stands, the basics function well enough. But I have noticed in UHF mode, if you listen through my microphone,
Maybe I'll be able to answer
there's some
that when we get back to
squealing.
town. Get married.
So that tells me there's maybe a filtering issue in there somewhere. Again, I am not an expert on CRTs. I can only kind of go on what I've read and what little I pick up online and stuff. So yeah, I think I'm going to stop with the testing here. Let me turn this off and it'll go down to its one little dot. A little bit of nostalgia for some of you. Yep, just like that. The more I think about it, the more I think I would like somebody with a background in CRTs to take a look at this thing. And anyone know how to get in touch with Shango066? I do know some people that deal in later CRTs, 80s and 90s ones, 2000s, but yeah, I think I need somebody who knows the golden age stuff, so to speak, to look at this one. I have a feeling there's probably some dried out caps in there, but once again, I have not been able to open this up to take even a cursory look around. Maybe there's dead critters in there, who knows. Bottom line is this is not reliable, and otherwise feel free to chime in the comments, let me know. But otherwise, that's going to be it for this video, and next week is going to be the final episode of Season 10 of Archive, and the last regular episode before the 10th anniversary. And next week's video does revolve around a truly resurrected piece of gear, albeit one that a friend fixed up for me. And one that I can't say I've seen on YouTube yet. I've seen the concept, but not this particular piece of gear, and it's kind of a dual-use thing. And it does necessitate some major label music, so don't be surprised if I have to stick it on archive.org and just some sort of teaser on YouTube. But only time will tell on that front. Otherwise, I will talk to you then.